Hey, what's up guys? It's Ndafara from NKT Studios. In this CSV to DynamoDB Lambda tutorial, I'm going to show you how to take information in a CSV file and persist it into an AWS DynamoDB table using Lambda. So basically this is how it's going to work. We'll have an S3 bucket, a Lambda function, and a DynamoDB table. When a new file, that is a CSV file, is added to the S3 bucket, our Lambda function will be invoked and it will read the CSV file. After reading the CSV file, it will then persist the information into the DynamoDB table. Now, let me just demonstrate what we're going to build. So we have an S3 bucket called CSV Dynamo Lambda Demo and a DynamoDB table called movie characters. If I refresh here, I'm in the items, you can see that there are no items or there are no records in the table. And then we've got a Lambda function. This is the Lambda function that we're going to build. So if I upload the CSV file here, I'm just going to show you the CSV file that I'm going to upload first. So this is the CSV file that I'm going to upload. It's got movie characters and an arbitrary salary, as well as an actor ID. So I'm going to upload that file. And then when I upload it, the records will be put into the DynamoDB table through the Lambda. Upload is in progress and it was successful. Now if I go to the DynamoDB table and then refresh, you can see I now have my records here. And the thing that made this work was this Lambda function here. Just before we continue, I just wanted to ask you to please like this video and subscribe to the channel to help us to continue producing these videos. Now back to business. I prefer having an overall view of what I want to do like we did above and then setting up the components as we go, rather than setting up everything at once and then linking it up. So we're going to start with setting up the S3 bucket, and then we're going to create a Lambda that reads the files in the S3 bucket, and then we're going to set up a DynamoDB table, and then we're going to modify our Lambda function to persist the information to the DynamoDB table. So now let's go and create our S3 bucket. So after you log into the AWS console, just select S3 here. And after it finishes loading up, click on Create Bucket here. I'm going to name my bucket NKT Studios CSV to DynamoDB. You'll have to use a different name, as names in S3 are global, which means that they have to be unique across the entire AWS environment. You can see this if you look at the top left corner, it says global instead of a region. If you click on it, it will tell you that S3 does not require a region selection. The region we choose here is to just improve the latency and to concentrate the S3 bucket with other AWS services that we might be using. For example, if we had EC2 instances in a certain region and we wanted those EC2 instances to work with our S3 bucket, on the region here, we should choose the region where those EC2 instances are. I'll keep the one that is already selected, which is EU West 1. To keep this simple, I'll keep block all public access checked and then click on Create Bucket, which will create the bucket. When you get a confirmation that your bucket was successfully created, just click Go to Bucket Details. It will open up in the bucket overview where you can upload an object, set object properties or permissions. Select Properties and then choose Default Encryption. Select AES-256 and then click on Save. This will just encrypt our objects in the S3 bucket. With that, our S3 bucket is set up. Now let's take a look at the CSV file that we will be processing. Our CSV file will contain movie character data as follows. We've got the actor ID, first name, surname, and salary. The actor ID is a number and this is what we're going to use as the primary key. The first name and surname are strings and the salary is a double because the salary can have decimal points. Now, let me just open the CSV so that you can see the sample records that it has. My sample CSV has just movie character first name, surname, and some random salary. As you can see, I've got James Bond and the salary is 300,000. I've got Darth Vader and the salary is 200,000. With our S3 bucket and CSV file ready, we now need to build a Lambda that reads the CSV in the S3 bucket. But before we create the Lambda, we need to create a role that will give the Lambda access to S3, DynamoDB, and CloudWatch for the logs. So just go back to your AWS console, just click on Services, type IAM, and then click on it. When it opens up, click on Rows on the left menu, and then click on Create Role. Then click on Next Permissions. It will open up a page where we're going to attach the S3, DynamoDB, and CloudWatch permissions. In the search bar, just type in S3 and then select Amazon S3 Full Access. Then type in Dynamo and select Amazon DynamoDB full access. Lastly, type in CloudWatch and select AWS OpsWorks CloudWatch logs. Click on Next Tags. We're not going to put in any tags, so click on Next Review to give our row a name and review our current settings. I'm going to name this row CSV to DynamoDB. And in the description, I'm just going to write row which access is S3, DynamoDB and CloudWatch. And then just check that our three policies are there. That is the S3 policy, the DynamoDB policy, and the CloudWatch policy. And as you can see on mine, all the policies are there. Then click on Create Row to create the row. When it's done, we should see our row in the list of rows. As you can see here, my row is there. With that, let's create our Lambda. So just click on Services, type Lambda, and then select it. And then just click on Create Function to create a new Lambda function. When this page opens up, just make sure that Author from Scratch is selected and then give our Lambda a name. I'm going to give it the same name as my row, that is CSV to DynamoDB. On the runtime, select Python 3.8. We have to be on the cutting edge. Then expand, choose or create execution role. Select use an existing row and then choose the row that we just created, that is CSV to DynamoDB. Then click on Create Function to create our Lambda function. It will take a bit of time, and then when it's done, it will give us a confirmation. As you can see here, it successfully created the function CSV to DynamoDB. So we'll break the development of our Lambda function into two parts. The first part is just reading a CSV that would have been put in our S3 bucket. And the second part is taking that information and writing it into the DynamoDB database. So let's get into the first part. We know that when we put our CSV file in S3, our Lambda function has to be triggered. So just go up here where it says Designer and click on Add Trigger. If this is collapsed like this, just expand it like this. And then click on Add Trigger. On this Add Trigger configuration that opens up, click on the drop down and type S3. Select that one that is remaining there. On the bucket, choose our S3 bucket, which is NKT Studios CSV to DynamoDB. Under the event type, we're going to cater for put events, so we only want our Lambda function to be triggered when somebody puts in or uploads a CSV file in the S3 bucket. We are not going to put a prefix because we didn't put a folder structure in our S3 bucket, but we're going to need a suffix, and it's going to be .csv. This just ensures that our Lambda function is triggered by a CSV file only. So if somebody uploads, say, an image file or a video file in the S3 bucket, our Lambda function is not going to be invoked. Make sure Enable Trigger is selected and then click on Add, which will add that trigger to our Lambda. It will give us this confirmation if everything went well. If you scroll down to where it says S3 and expand this arrow, it will show you the details pertaining to the trigger. That is it enabled, the bucket name, the event type, as well as the prefix and suffix if any. As you can see here, I only have a suffix which is .csv. This looks good. Now let's write some code. So just scroll down to where it says function code, where we'll see some default code. The first thing that we want to do is to import the CSV libraries. So under import JSON, just type in import CSV. This is the library that we're going to use to read the CSV files. Don't forget to click on save after every change, because if you don't click on save, you don't save your changes. We also need to import Boto3, which is an AWS SDK for Python, and it allows Python code to create, configure, and manage AWS services. So just type in import Boto3. I'm also going to change hello from Lambda to CSV to DynamoDB success. Inside the Lambda handler, that's where we're going to write most of our code. Now we just need to set up our region and a record list. So I'm just going to delete this comment here and then set up our region. which is going to be EU West 1. And we need a blank record list. This will just hold the records from our CSV. All our code is going to be in a try statement so that we can catch exceptions. So just put a try statement here. We need to initialize our S3 client that we're going to use to read the CSV file in the S3 bucket. So type in S3 is equals to borrow3 dot client S3. Remember, our Lambda is triggered by an S3 put event, and that event comes into our Lambda function through this event parameter. So we can use this event parameter to get the name of the bucket as well as the name of the CSV file that has been put into the bucket. To get the name of the bucket, type in bucket equals to event, and then square brackets records, and then first element 0, and then we're going to get the S3 attribute, and then in the S3 attribute we need the bucket and the name. So bucket and then name. To get the name of the file, type in key. So we're gonna call the file name key is equals to event records again, first element, and then we're gonna use the S3 attribute and then get the object and key. Object and then key. In case you're wondering where I'm getting this, that is the records, first element, S3 attributes, etc., just go to the top right corner and click on the drop down besides test. Select configure test event, and when the configure test event page comes up, just select Amazon S3 put. So here on the event template, if you click on the drop down, you can search for S3 and then select the Amazon S3 put. As you can see, it shows us the structure of the S3 event that will be sent to our Lambda. So this is where we have records, this is the first element, and then you've got the S3 attribute with the bucket name as well as the object and key. So you can give this template a name and then save it. I'm going to call it CSV test. And then click on the create button to create it. To test it, let's just print the bucket and the key. So it's going to be print and then the bucket. And then the key. Before we run the test, we just need to close our try statement. So we're going to write except, exception, SE, and then we're going to print it out. So if you have a problem, we'll print out the problem, then just cast it to a string. Click on save, and then test. If you look at the execution results here, we've got the bucket name and the key. If we go back to our configure test events and then select edit test events, and then if we come here, you can see that the bucket name is example bucket and the key name is test key, which is exactly what has been printed here. This means that if we actually upload our CSV file, our actual bucket name and the key name, that is the file name of our CSV, will be printed here. So let me just demonstrate this. Let's go to S3. I'm going to open it in a new tab. And then we're going to select our bucket, which is NKT Studios CSV to DynamoDB. And then I'm going to upload a file. And then I'm going to select my CSV file and then upload. When the upload is done, I can go back to my Lambda, scroll up to monitoring, and then go to CloudWatch Insights. And then if I select the latest year to open up in CloudWatch, and then I can see the logs. As you can see here, my bucket name NKT Studios CSV to DynamoDB was printed, as well as the key, which is my CSV file. If you'd like to learn more about CloudWatch, there's a link to a video series I did for CloudWatch in the description below, as well as somewhere up on the top here. So far so good. Let's go back to our Lambda function. Now that we are certain that we can read the bucket name as well as the key name when we upload a CSV file, we now need to read the CSV file using the borrow3 object that we created here. So we're just going to type in CSV file is equals to s3.get object, and then in brackets we put in the bucket is equals to bucket, and then comma, key is equals to key. Now to get the content of the CSV file and put it in our list, we're going to type in the name of our list, which is record list, is equals to CSV file, and then we're going to pass in the body. And to get each row in the CSV, we're going to type in read brackets dot decode, and then it's UTF-8, and then dot split, and then in brackets /n. This is because rows in CSV are split by lines. We can now use our CSV library, this one here, to read the rows in our CSV. So just type in CSV reader is equals to CSV.reader. Then we pass in our record list, comma, delimiter. Our CSV file is limited by commas, so we put a comma there, and then the code character. Just put a space to make it easier to read, is equal to, and then we put in the codes. Let's just save in case something happens. Now we have to loop through the rows. So type in for row in CSV reader actor ID is equals to row 0. And then I'm just going to copy this and put it for the other items, which is first name, surname, and salary. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, and this is going to be first name. This is going to be surname, and this is going to be salary. At this point, we can now read the CSV. Now to test it, we need to just print the values. So I'm going to print the actor ID, first name, and surname. So I'm just going to come here and then put in print. I'm going to start with the actor ID. And then I'm going to print in the actor ID. And then the first name. And then the surname. This print statement is part of the loop, so I just need to adjust there. Okay, like that. Let's just save our work. To test this, We can either re-upload our CSV file and then go and look at the CloudWatch logs, or we can modify our test template and put in our bucket name and our key name and then invoke that. This is what I'm going to do. So just go to S3 and then confirm the name of the bucket. I'm just going to copy it here and then check the name of the CSV file, which is movie-characters.csv. Go back to your Lambda and then come here, configure test events. Make sure that edit saved test events is selected, and then the saved test event is CSV test. And then here on the S3 bucket name, paste in your bucket name. And then on the object key, put in the name of your CSV file. Mine is movie-characters.csv. Save. And now we can click on test to simulate a CSV upload. As you can see here, in our execution results, my Lambda has printed the values in my CSV file. This concludes the first part of the Lambda function. We can now upload a CSV file in our S3 bucket and then read the contents in our Lambda function. Now let's move on to the next part, which is writing this content in the CSV file to a DynamoDB table. I've put this in a different video because this video became longer than I expected. So see you in the next video.